in studio, and I'd like us to shift focus to yet another area that is of high importance, and that could be amongst Mbeere North. We have Malava and Casipool, just to mention a few, including Magarini. Let's start with Malava, because that by-election is another contest that the ruling regime is upbeat to clinch. The seat was previously held by Musalia Mudavadi's ANC party that has since been dissolved and merged with President William Ruto's UDA. And that's another battlefront, as we mentioned, that the ruling Kenya Kwanza regime is facing off against the united opposition. The UDA party candidate is David Ndakwa, who's facing off against Seth Panyako under the DAP Kenya ticket. And Malava is widely seen as a litmus test for Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula. It's all to do with their grip of the Western Kenya region, a region where opposition forces remain strong. And the Mulembe Nation has been criticized time and time again, Juma, about that lack of unity. We've seen a couple of opposition leaders, including George Natembeya, try to cut out path for themselves in terms of, swaying the masses in this particular election. What's your take in terms of the dynamics in that particular race in Malava?
Yeah, the Malava race has been quite interesting, and you could see in the morning when Seth Panyako's vehicle was banned. Just that showed the emotions, the kind of emotions, that were there in the morning. And also we have seen, of course, like you said, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Speaker of the National Assembly, they have camped there. We have also seen the President's Private Secretary, Farouk Kibet. He has been there. And also something interesting, we saw that Boni Halwale, who is a UDA MP, crossed over to DAP to support Panyako. And we also saw that the Deputy Governor also crossed over. And so it has been, it's an interesting area.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to know at this stage who will call it for. But you also know that Wamalwa and of course Natembeya, who are both from DAP, are very, very influential. They have been leading Natembeya has been popularizing the Tawe movement. Yeah, so this election is will be a litmus test to see the popularity of the Prime Cabinet Secretary in that region. At the end of the day, President Ruto will call all these people and ask them to show him your result slip. What did you get? And so I foresee, those who have triumphed, Kindiki will be very happy if he wins Mbeere, and also Musalia Mudavadi may be in some trouble if he doesn't deliver. Malava.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting dynamic, and I think tomorrow we'll be having so many stories to say about those seats.
Okay. Wanja, looking into the political crystal ball, how do you foresee this Malava contest playing out? Because not too long ago, we saw the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi actually hand over jobs to some of the losers in the UDA primaries, sort of endearing their candidates to the masses, the lengths that, the politicians will go to actually sell their agenda. But equally, the race between the united opposition and the broad-based government. On one side, we have Musalia, Weta, just to name a few. On the other, we have the DAP leader, Eugene Wamalwa, the governor, Trans Nzoia, George Natembeya, just to mention a few. So the dynamics are really out there for all to see. What's your take on this briefly?
Malava.
Yeah.
In Malava, for me, I'll just start by saying that George Natembeya is one of the key players in the whole situation. The reason why I mention him is because some of these by-elections, we don't even know the name of the candidate. We know the name of the giants who are more interested in the outcome than even the aspirant. George Natembeya his political profile has been rising. Even sometimes back, he was touted to be a potential deputy presidential candidate of other opposition leaders. Of course, that's what was going around. And he has also come up with a new movement called Tawe. He's saying that anybody who jokes with the Luhya unity to be rejected outright. So his Tawe movement has become very popular amongst the people. Why I mention it, it is because some of the things and some of the policies he's implementing is that the Luhya people are many in numbers, but some of their representatives in government are there to represent themselves and not for the unity of the Luhyas. So the fact that his political profile is rising, then there is heightened increase in the seat. It might also be remembered that there is also another dynamic in Malava, where the united opposition, DCP, was interested in Malava.
True.
DAP-K for Natembeya is also interested. UDA was also interested, and the former Secretary General of UDA, Malala, has now since shifted. He's in the DCP. So what happened at the time was, even before we go to the candidates now, there was a lot of step down, negotiated democracy within the united opposition, before now we go to the candidates. I think that is one of the things that have made the area to be quite interesting. You might also remember that one of the individuals, Seth Payako, was once an employee of Ruto, but he's one of the people who left the government almost quite. He's also very interesting because he's a unionist. At one point, he was the chairman of all the nurses, if not nurses, clinical officers in the whole country. Nurses. So there's something about unionists and how they manage their politics. So he's also a politician in that regard.
And it's not his first stab at this particular position.
It's not his first stab. So those things, when they come together in one pot, then you can tell that the temperatures are quite high. But also in Malava, there was information around electoral malpractices very early in the morning. I remember in one of the Facebook pages from that region, there were photos of people being stabbed. In the morning, Payako was crying because his driver has been stabbed. He was distressed during the polling station. So now you can tell that already we are starting from a point of suspicion. So if that is where we are starting out, there is a possibility that the outcome could be disputed. But for me, Jesse, one of the things I'm struggling is why we must respond to the question, which is really big, why elections in Kenya are a matter of life and death. Because in other places, I was following the election in New York. Cuomo lost badly. Mamdani, probably one would call him a greenhorn, but very charming, won. Cuomo called a presser. He was happy, he wished him well, and he went to his Italian family. Now we have Mamdani, who we are wanting to be Kenyan, although he's not very Kenyan, or East African. Now for me, the fact that our elections are a matter of life and death, that's why people are getting stabbed. One have to ask, what is it that is so motivating with holding of political power that it becomes a matter of life and death? But broadly, I want to be a bit regional and global, or just a bit. Our neighbors in Uganda have been behaving badly in terms of the elections, even though it's the national elections. Tanzania, it's for the books, even ICC is looking at it. In Kenya, we have also seen instances of repression and muzzling of the voices of opposition. In West Africa, we've seen all manner of complex political situations. It concerns me that, well, in other countries around the world, just like Bosco was saying that people are voting from home, they are doing early voting. It seems like in Africa, particularly in East Africa, while people are progressing, as we are regressing, because how we are behaving. In Tanzania, the democracy is so peculiar that one individual has won with 98%. You know, it beats statistical logic. So now that we have been exporting bad manners, we are involved in how Besigye was moved from Kenya to that place, and it sort of affects the politics. It concerns me that we are making many steps back, and if this by-election is a litmus test, then then in 2027, unless we do better, everything will be in large scale.
Exactly. We need to learn from the mistakes of the past. And perhaps before we engage Bosco, just to keep you updated about the latest results that are still streaming in. As we mentioned, the vote counting and tallying process is currently ongoing. And of course, most of the results that have been finalized might be the ward races. As we mentioned, 15 ward races across the country after 2 were declared a no contest in, I think, Elgeyo Marakwet and Uasin Gishu County, those 2. The latest we're receiving in our newsroom right now is that IEBC has declared UDA's Amos Mpusia the winner of Purko Ward MCA seat in Kajiado County after garnering 2,805 votes, defeating DCP's Sanare, who got 1,522 votes, and ODM's Naikuni, who got 298. So in that ward race in Purko Ward in Kajiado County, UDA has emerged victorious. Amos Mpusia is the winner. To another ward race, DCP's candidate for Kisia East MCA by-election, Aduda Okwiri, has won with 1,952 votes, followed by MDG's Joel Ongoro with 1,541 votes. That's the latest from Kisia East, where DCP candidate has actually won. His name is Aduda Okwiri. That's the very latest in terms of some of the results that have been finalized. Of course, the races in the senatorial and member of parliament is a little bit lengthy in terms of verifying and counting the votes that were actually cast. So we expect the results to continue trickling in, and we'll keep you updated as and of when we get them. Okay, Bosco, due to interest of time, I'd like us to take a look at Casipool constituency, which is yet another hotly contested area, and it's shaping out as a 2-horse race between ODM parties Boyd Were and the independent candidate Philip Aroko. Aroko is seeking to destabilize the status quo that has been enjoyed by the ODM party in the Nyanza region, and specifically Casipool. The contest has been so heated. Of course, we've seen several people killed during the campaign period. Injuries were reported even today, and that prompted the IEBC earlier on to fine the 2 candidates 1 million shillings each for the violence that was witnessed earlier on in that constituency. Talk to us about the high stakes for ODM in this particular race, because they have to maintain their traditional voting base if they're to perhaps have a negotiating card come 2027, or if they're to be seen as they haven't been affected by the passing on of Raila Odinga and his exit from their political space. What do you make of the race in Casipool?
Thank you very much. Casipool is a very unique also constituency in the manner in which we have seen one of the candidates, Were, is a candidate who is coming from the death of his father. And in by-elections, mostly, where the candidate is coming from taking up, or rather buying, following the death of a parent or a sister or a relative, sometimes the sympathy card mostly ride, and it's able to, you have seen by-elections where a husband dies, the wife buys, and they're able to win an election. So it's not any different in Casipool. However, there are other parameters that would influence this, because when you talk about ODM and Casipool, this is an area where, as you have said, ODM is has been very big previously. Now with the demise of Raila Odinga, because ODM mostly has been synonymous with Raila Odinga, the late Raila Amolo Odinga, and he's the one who has been saying, like in a certain region, I want us as the party, I as Raila Odinga, I want you to vote for X and not Y. So it's a very unique area. We saw the finding of the people who have been involved in challenges in this by-election being fined by IEBC, which was a very good thing for IEBC to have at least reined in to these candidates. Yeah. Casipool is a constituency that will show us who ODM is post-Raila, because maybe there are people who are against that. So you may not know even the balance. If, let's say, ODM wins, is it because of the sympathy of the voters, or the sympathy of the candidate due to the death of the father, or is it because of ODM itself?
Okay.
And now these players are, these things are coming into play. When you look at Malava, as you had said, and my colleagues had mentioned, Malava is also high stakes, because when you look at how Natembeya has really come up, being a one-time, the first time is in active politics, and he's really been able to bring a lot of influence in that area, challenging big wigs like Wetangula and Mudavadi. I think it's for Mudavadi and Wetangula to lose, because if they lose this position, it has a lot of impact on how the president or UDA will look at them now that they're in this arrangement. When you talk about also, as I just talked earlier about Casipool, about the broad-based government, what is playing in there is, and even in Malava, is we have seen someone like Savula talking about an arrangement they had as ODM and DAPK in 2022 about arrangement between the governor, who is ODM, and DAPK to be deputy. They have a pact they signed, and it's already deposited with the political parties. And it's very surprising and unique that you have seen Wamalo has been very silent on that. He has not been really coming out saying about it. Okay. He has no issue with the deputy governor campaigning for the other candidate. And it shows how our politicians operate. When it's about them and it's affecting them personally, they keep quiet. But if it has an issue that are affecting our people, sometimes it goes the other direction. So when you look at Mbeere North and also Malava and now Casipool, and especially Malava and Mbeere North, the troops from both sides, the troops from the government have been sent by William Ruto, go there and get this seat. If they don't get that seat, it has a lot of impact on their seats that they are having, on their influence, and what will happen in 2027 to them. So if you look at, like, for example, Malava and Mbeere North, as I said, is a referendum for 2027 of what? Looking for a running mate. A running mate from either the mountain or from Western. So a win for any of the parties, let's say in government, if the government wins both positions in Mbeere North and Malava, Kenya Kwanza could be confused on which way to go with a running mate. Because now what it shows, as my sister had said, when you look at the fight between Mount Kenya East and West, the people in Mount Kenya East and Mount Kenya West, Mount Kenya East having a deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, they feel that now that they have that seat right now, the West are not supporting them, for example. And that's maybe what has angered them, even the people to, or rather, has made the people of Mbeere North to try to vote to please Kindiki. And remember, Mbeere North is neighboring with Tharaka on the other end. There's a rally Kindiki there went the other day and he spoke pure pure Tharaka, if you want to call it. And people could respond in the same way. When you look at Malava, the fight between Malala, the governor, Natembeya, Wamalwa, these people are against now the Mudavadi and the other side of the government. This is not something to wish away, because it's a vote of no confidence if someone loses here. And that will dictate, as you had said, politics about perception. So from here, anyone who wins this position will go out there and saying, I own the mountain, I own the Western. And it's also, when people bring their scorecard to the president from both sides, he will say, I gave you this work, I gave you this and this. What did you deliver? What did you bring? But also when you look at the margins of the numbers will also help a lot to say, we don't have a lot of influence here. This is what we need to go to the drawing board and do. We have seen, Rigathi Gachagua has been very open and saying the king of the mountain and all that. So if he loses some of this, like Mbeere, it has impact. When Malala loses this position, being the deputy party leader of DCP, it speaks volume. So and how they even came in together and agreed on consensus to put a candidate, and they all supported. But we are disappointed with what we saw this morning. And that's why I said violence, whether it's from opposition or the government, we don't approve. We saw the graphics of, someone injured, naked. We don't need to get to that level.
Definitely, and I think it's making its way to the front page of tomorrow's edition of The Standard. The headline highlighting ballot bloodshed. That's what you'll be waking up to tomorrow, all to do with poll violence that was witnessed in the November 27th by-election. Juma, ODM is not just keen in bagging the Casipool seat. They're equally looking at what will be happening in Ugunja as well, where they have a candidate right there. ODM's candidate is Moses Omondi, facing off against Wiper's Odhiambo Orodi and Kanu's Chris Budo. Those are amongst the candidates who are seeking to inherit that seat that was previously held by Opiyo Wandayi, the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. Well, what do you make of that contest? Is it smooth sailing for ODM?
Yeah, I think ODM has demonstrated their supremacy in these elections. Yeah. Even in the wake of Raila Odinga's demise, they demonstrate, and you must know that the ODM supremos are in this arrangement, broad-based arrangement with the president, and so they have to show the president that they can deliver, even in their backyard. And so I will not be surprised if ODM wins almost all the areas, including Magarini, including Ugunja, Casipool. They're going to sweep all those areas. And if you combine that with the UDAs sweeping of Mbeere North and the other areas where UDA is actually keen on, then it will be a win for the broad-based government. It will be it will boost their propaganda moving forward. Yeah. And I think that is one way of showing, because there was a little bit of worry. People were worried that with the demise of the former Prime Minister, that ODM was going to scatter. But these results are good also, especially for people like Gladys Wanga, who is the chairperson of ODM. It will strengthen ODM's hand in negotiating for positions when they come into a coalition agreement with the UDA. As you remember, during the burial of Raila Odinga, it was very, very clear. The president said that ODM will either form the government or be part of the party, the coalition that will form government. Yeah. So these elections is very, very important for ODM to take forward that discussion. But then, lastly, let me just say that for me, I think the gamble for the president, by getting Rukus from Mbeere North, because this is one of the things that I've been saying, that the cabinet, usually the constitution earlier on said that the government doesn't need politicians. But you see, the president has had this habit of getting politicians. So by getting Rukus from Mbeere North and making him into a cabinet, and also getting Opiyo Wandayi and putting him in the cabinet, that was a huge gamble, a huge risk, which I personally think it doesn't have to be this way. Personally, I would love that by-elections are held in situation whereby we have lost the MP, but not when we just remove someone who has been elected. Let him serve his time. Then when he's done, he can be appointed next time. Because I think we have so many individuals like my sister here who can be cabinet secretary, right? Yeah. So, taking someone from a job and then give him another job, and yet these youth want jobs. I think that's something we need to think about. So it is good that at least they get to carry the day in those areas. But then again, the turnout and also the margins, as they take this conversation forward, the margins will also speak volumes, and the turnouts.
So it's not just how you win It's not just winning, it's how you win.
It's
right?
how you win.
Okay.
It's not how you, it's how you must win, and you must win well.
Yeah.
Because that, as I told you, this will define the voter behavior. Voter behavior is very, very important in politics.
Okay.
Not just like opinion polls, but it will tell us where the trend is going. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So it's a learning curve, and perhaps in the true nature of politicians, I'm actually seeing on social media the couple of UDA-aligned politicians who've already started congratulating their candidates. And I'm pretty sure there's so much misinformation on social media. You might think the race is done and dusted, but remember, IEBC has the final say, and they're the only ones who can declare the member of parliament elect, the member of National Assembly elect. So don't get swayed by what you're seeing online. I mentioned something about the paper and what you'll be waking up to tomorrow on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. I don't know if you can have it on our screens just to tease, or we'll have it a little bit later on. But as we cross over to you, Wanga, since you can be a cabinet secretary.
Amen. Amen.
Interesting. Amen. From our mouth to God's ears.
Amen.
I just want your take on the Baringo senatorial seat, because we saw the president actually make concessions in terms of trying to bring the former senator, Gideon Moi, into his political divide. And this, of course, ended up with the fact that Gideon Moi was no longer on the ballot. But we've seen it shaping up as a high-stake battleground, despite the KANU chairperson pulling out of the race. Vincent Chemite is flying the flag for President William Ruto's UDA party, facing stiff competition from other candidates, including independent candidate Benjamin Chebon and David Kipruto of Republican Liberty Party. One would assume, this being the ngome, quote unquote, here, President William Ruto, a win in this particular area for UDA is non-negotiable, just to show that he still has control over his backyard. What do you make of the intrigues in case the UDA candidate wins or loses? What will follow thereafter?
Thank you so much, Jesse. So I'll first start by saying, for some reason, I have not really followed the Ringo by-elections.
Okay.
But when I was itching to say something, it's because I wanted to say something around Casipool.
No problem.
So maybe my colleague will handle that.
Yeah.
That one I admit, sijaelewa vizuri. So I'll start by saying that in Casipool, the two front runners, now that we are defining the two horses, is that one is a son of the MP who died, who was murdered. The other one is a person of interest in that murder, as per what was reported online. In fact, Aroko spent 7 days in police custody in regards to that murder, but obviously, as we all know, those are allegations until we get a judiciary situation. So I'm not insinuating anything.
Yeah.
But that creates a scenario whereby the competition, and Aroko now is a known philanthropist in his village. So we are looking at a delicate dance between a person who is liked, who has a controversy that led to that is shrouded in the issue of the loss of life of Charles Ogondo Were. Now that in itself creates a whole layer in the equation. Just like Cicely Barire who calls herself Karinda in Embu, Gladys Wanga cannot afford to lose because she's also the chairwoman of ODM, just like Barire is the chairman of UDA, chairwoman of UDA. So both of them, the stakes are higher than most. But then again, if I look at the politics of the region, because the very nature of our political organizing is regionalism and ethnic mobilization, I also see that even though ODM might win, because in my view they are competing amongst themselves, there has been major changes that have been happening in the region. For example, Aroko, who is innocent until proven guilty, is a key front runner, but he's an independent candidate. Okay. In that same region, we had a party like UDM that gave ODM in Siaya a run for their money in the gubernatorial seat in the last election. In fact, the aspirant then won with over 100,000 votes. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that we are dealing with a very delicate region. This MP was killed under mysterious circumstances. You remember the IEBC has been trying to have political hygiene. Aroko, the individual, the aspirant, was among the 2 aspirants who were fined 1 million by IEBC, I think 2 weeks ago, because of violence that led to loss of life and inability to contain their supporters. So beyond now Casipool as we know it, for them their politics is a politics of violence. We saw a documentary where some people were cut in the nose, all in the name of the politics. Some people have also questioned about how we perceive successors after one leader has died or they have left. One would ask, was there a form of competition that was subjected to all ODM aspirants in the region to arrive at the individual who is the aspirant? Understandably, he could be competent, he's well educated, I think he has a background in finance, fair enough. But some other people would say it's not enough to give you a ticket simply because you are a natural successor of your dad. So those issues of kinship and issues of rewarding people out of sympathy could also be interrogated, because the other question will be, do those successors become better leaders? Are they even politically interested, for example? Those are the things that come to mind. I think overall ODM is having its own share of challenges. You've seen high-level competition. You've seen them having, even before Baba rested well, we saw a quick appointment of a national chairperson. So I think for me, when I look at ODM, I look at what political parties become once they don't gravitate around one key individual, and even a question for us as Kenyans in terms of our political organizing, because as far as we know now, it's around personalities. Just last week, I was in South Africa and I met with some individuals from the Democratic Alliance, the ANC. I also participated in the women shutdown, because the women shut down the country for 15 minutes. One of the things I note is like the ANC in South Africa is celebrating 113 years. So beyond Mandela, Shakufa and other individuals, the ANC, you can tell that even without a certain individual, it will stand. The Republicans, Donald Trump is just one of the nominees, but even if he's not there, the Republican is the Republican, so is the Democrat. I think as Kenyans, for me, how it's panning out in Nyanza, for me, I'm thinking, it is my hope in the future that we'll have a nationalistic party, because it does, in proper countries, a Kikuyu can vie in Oguja. Why? Because we are just looking at leaders as long as an individual is registered there. But the moment when it is tribesmen in those villages, the moment a deputy president suddenly speaks more mother tongue than others, it sort of takes away that global picture of what a deputy president should do. This is a natural successor of a president if something bad were to happen. Those things, for me, I think we should have broader conversations around the same. But Casipool is synonymous to violence. The stakes are higher than most, so there is a point of reflection. Okay. And also Gladys Wanga, she's the governor. She has to deliver. She was a friend of the MP who died, and they seem to have gotten along politically. So for her, it's also, considering that her position in ODM is having a bit of shaky internal wrangles, she can also, if she loses, then it will be seen as weakness in her leadership. For Baringo, obviously we saw Gideon Moi leave the seat, but that area, it seems like it never caught my interest for some reason.
Okay, well, Baringo is dealing with a couple of challenges, including flooding, and some of the polling stations had to be changed. That's the latest from Baringo. As you come in, Bosco, what's your take on what has been said? Because we're definitely should be finalizing right now. Your final comments.
One thing that has been very outstanding in Baringo is how the president moved swiftly to, I would say, stop former senator from buying Moi. Yeah. And the reason maybe he did this is because of the impact. If he, in any case, won that election, what it would mean to the Kalenjin community, what it would mean to Ruto's presidency in terms of what if he wins. Definitely, Moi would have been seen to have control of the area, Baringo is also controlled by some clanism at some point, or some communities politics. And so when you look at how during this by-election, the stakes that are there they are both national and local, whereby former Baringo Senator Gideon Moi have been seen to be in different camps with Ruto for many years. And this has suddenly united them. And it's something that has been seen as protecting Ruto's kingship, more or less, to say, because he's the undisputed king of, if there are kings that is, he's the undisputed king of the Kalenjins. Yeah. And a win for any other political party there has a lot of impact, and it speaks volumes. And so the other thing we would look at that by-election, we thank the IEBC for their innovation and quick response to the floods. They gazetted some, what is it called, the polling stations for people to vote, alternative polling stations. Sure. I think those are some of the things that we are saying IEBC should keep improving as we move forward. That was kudos for them. When we talk about IEBC also, in future there needs to be a lot of training of police, for example. We could even have a specific police unit to handle elections, which they need to be trained in advance. And we need to look at training of all the stakeholders, including media, because some of the things that media have been accused previously of fueling some of those things, though we have seen a lot of improvement from our media houses lately, because what happened in 2007, I don't think it can happen any other time, because but media needs to be given its freedom so that we don't see what we saw in Tanzania. Yeah. But all said and done, we need to have police training, media, all the stakeholders involved in an election. And as I said, institutions like NCIC, IEBC to use the code of conduct and implement it to the letter, so that they are not seen to be favoring maybe the government candidate or the opposition candidate. Let there be a fair playground. On the other things that really is spoiling our show in the elections is our leaders' language. Some language used during our elections is really bad, and it's not a very good show for our young people. A young person who is growing might think elections are supposed to provide a platform for leaders to abuse each other. We have seen the languages that have been applied both by the UDA and not necessarily UDA, pro-government leaders, and also in the opposition. So it's good for us looking into the future. I think I would say it is important we pick the lessons we have picked from this by-election, and try to improve the areas that have had challenges, so that we do big and better in 2027.
Definitely.
And I can only say, as I said, as it started, we can only know how even IEBC has performed on this by-election based on the outcome of the results, how they will be announced, what will happen after they are announced, the model of announcing these results will determine a lot whether there will be violence or no violence. But as I conclude, it's good to know as voters, the quality of the leaders you elect and send to parliament has a direct proportion impact on your livelihoods. Why? Be it an MCA or a member of parliament, we need to be very careful. When I speak about different professions, I'm not being personal, but I want to assure you, sometimes when you elect a comedian, expect comedy in parliament. And when you elect someone it could be a musician who is vacancies are well working, but speaking English only doesn't qualify you to be a good leader. So let's focus on the good leaders from the MCA, governor, all the positions. And let's avoid the suit that I said, because when it comes to elections, people focus on the political parties. We said we are voting this political party only. But as you have seen, for example, in some of these by-elections, some places where you never expected someone to even perform. We have seen independent candidates, even in the previous election, coming up very well. I think those are the things we need to look at. Let us have political, issue-based politics, so that that is going to help our people. And I think Kenya is blessed with a lot of peace so far, and we pray God to enjoy the same peace. You need to know the kind of peace we have in this country once you step to our neighboring countries.
Yeah, but I know you want to conclude. If you could allow me to just say one thing.
Sure.
You've just read for us that political candidates have already started owning the victory.
Exactly.
The IEBC, as it were, they tell us that candidates should stop campaigning at least 2 days, 3 days before the election.
Hours, yes.
But now there seems to be a gap in terms of the use of digital media and use of technology in terms of campaigning, because we have seen it full throttle many days before even today we were seeing it. So I think the IEBC, one of the other homeworks they have is just management of technology, management of use of social media, and management of, like, we were just talking about open the server. Jose Camago, some other people were saying, if we open, on one side, there is also data protection, privacy, who can access the server, you are accessing it as who, we need a court, a judiciary guideline on how to manage that server. I feel like technology is a double-edged sword. The fake news, the putting of politicians in coffins, the making of videos where they put the sound of the other person and it looks real. AI is here with us. True. I feel like even as IEBC prepares itself with the brick and mortar of the election management, this technology thing is doing a 360 degrees. And if we don't anticipate, for example, how the AI and the technology will affect, they will say in paper we should not do campaigns within 72 hours or 48 hours to the election, but that's when we will begin our campaigns proper. So I feel like there's a gap there in terms of legislation. For the politicians, this issue of negotiated democracy is such a big issue. Some people, what contributed actually to the apathy is when people are told, sacrifice your ambition for the greater good of the united opposition. So me, I'm like, my person has been told not to vie. So I feel like negotiated democracy is a whole barrier to many people, probably even the women. And lastly, for me, I would say that when all is said and done, let us not make the elections to be a matter of life and death, really. We can exchange in competition and real politics, but the moment we stab people, the moment someone is naked and they have been videoed with blood, it ceases to be a competition. So this thing of winner takes it all is a conversation we should have as a country. This issue of presidential elections where one individual has won with 7 million, the other one has 6.8 million. Those two people have won properly. So how does our system cure a situation where we almost have two winners? I think we need a broader conversation as a country. I wish the people who have won well, but it's my sincere hope that those who will lose will also lose well.
All right.
And also, it's 16 days of activism for the women, gender-based violence, even in the polling stations. So for the people who are participating even in electoral violence, we are pushing for safety for all. Let people walk whenever they wish without feeling violated. So I wish even the Kenyans to look at these 16 days as a situation to condemn violence, including electoral violence. Thank you.
Definitely. Juma, final comments briefly.
Yeah, thank you. Mine is just to congratulate everyone who took part in these elections. Elections are a very, very important aspect of our democracy. And for those who did not win, those who will not win today, please know that 2027 is actually a better one. But lastly, I really want to register my disappointment with one J.B. Muturi, former Speaker, former Attorney General, for what we all saw him do to that young man. I think that is so unbecoming, and we don't expect that from someone of his stature. But lastly, for the IEBC, they are on probation, and since they're on probation, I think they have basically done, a good job because they're on probation. However, I let them use this experience as a learning moment. One other sticking issue in elections is always, voter bribery. Voter bribery, even when I ran for member of parliament to Kenya in 2019, it was an issue, and usually politicians find a way around it. They find a way around it. They say, oh, we were reimbursing bus fare, or we are doing this. But at the end of the day, it makes it very, very expensive. It makes our election very, very expensive. So I think there is progress. We are not a perfect nation, but I think if we can build on the experience today, I think we can have better elections in 2027.
Definitely. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for your time. Daniel Juma, Wanja Maina, and Bosco Cura. We were burning the midnight oil right here. It's already Friday. Well, time flies when you're doing things of importance. And we definitely appreciate your input as we analyzed the big day when Kenya held the mini polls. And remember, the results is still streaming in, as you can see on the bottom of your screens. We have to verify before we put them out, and that's why we're relying only on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and we'll be streaming those results overnight, so do stay tuned to KTN to find out verifiably who exactly is leading in the 22 electoral contests that we had across the country. Remember, our team is still on the ground as early as 6 a.m. tomorrow or today. We will be breaking down some of the results that have already been announced by the returning officers in the various constituency tallying centers across the country. Trust us to keep you updated. Speaking of